Each quarter tells a story, from Wall Street heavyweights to emerging disruptors. We break down the numbers, the reactions, and the moves that matter most. Real data, real insights, in real time. This is Earnings Central Live with Verified Investing.
And it's also Trading the Close, but a special edition of Trading the Close. Welcome, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek. We have the first debut show of Earnings Central Live, hosted by Lawton Ho today. Going to take us through some earnings today. So let me pass it on to him. Lawton, what do you got for us today, sir?
Thank you so much, Drew. Yeah, guys, welcome to Earnings Central Live. My name is Lawton Ho here with Verified Investing, and I am here to bring you live earnings reactions, results, levels, and more. And today we have a jam-packed episode today to kick things off. We're going to start off at 4:05 talking about Palo Alto Networks, PANW, as well as Jack in the Box, JACK. Those two companies report earnings at 4:05, and finally, Nvidia, the big dog, at $420. And you know, this is the biggest earnings that there can be. It's the largest company in the stock market, and all eyes are on Nvidia's earnings, especially after Trump went off today, you know, talking about how great Nvidia was and retweeting things that Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, had said. So the way this is going to work for this show and my shows in the future is I'm going to go over some of these charts, tell you what the expected results are for these specific earnings, and then give you my support and resistance levels. Afterwards, we're literally going to react in real time to these earnings and see if it hits our levels. Now, you're free to trade along with us or watch at home, but just know this is extremely risky and earnings are really volatile. Something that I get all the time, a question that I hear all the time is, why don't we just go long or short into earnings? What do you think is going to happen? Well, just because the stock looks bearish or bullish into earnings doesn't mean it has to go into that direction, right, guys? That's why we're playing support and resistance levels afterwards. So with that being said, let's take a look at Palo Alto Networks and Jack in the Box. Let's start out with Palo Alto Networks. Let's talk a little bit about what we're expecting to see. And we can see here that the forecast for expected revenue is around $2.46 billion. About 15% up year over year. So definitely expecting positive earnings. That's the expected amount. But the question is, will they meet that? Will they beat that? And what will their guidance be, right? And let's take a look at Jack in the Box, the popular food retailer. So their forecast is a revenue of $321.5 million, down 12.2%. Go ahead and take that off for me, please. Now, something interesting to note. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen. See if we can get that there. Okay, awesome. These companies report at 4:05. So let's just hop right into the levels, and I'm going to show you how I got them, right? And I go through this process every single time that I take a look at earnings, trying to find levels of support and resistance for earnings. So let's hop into Palo Alto Networks. The first thing I did was take a look at its previous earnings. We can see over here from its last earnings, how much did it move? Around 7%. I went and did this for the past, 4 or 5 earnings that each of these stocks had, and then use that to try and find out, okay, where are the levels of support and resistance that I'm looking for on these particular stocks. So on Palo Alto Networks, the first level of resistance that I have on the stock is right here around 215, and there's a slider on the bottom so you can write these down and follow along at home. So about 7.5% higher around this 215 level, I anticipate resistance for Palo Alto Networks. Now, does it have to go there? Does it have to pull back from there? Not necessarily, but that's the first place that I could see a pullback. The second level, a more, you could say, a more conservative level, potentially for a swing trade basis. would be that double top rate, about 11 to 12% higher. Now, do I expect it to go that much higher off of earnings? No, not particularly. However, there will be some great resistance up there if it did. Now, to the downside, for support, you see all of this sideways consolidation, all the price action hanging around this 187 level. This was a level that was previously really important. So I anticipate a bounce from it if should it get there around the 187.25 level. And again, down here around the 176 level, a gap fill from August of this year. Now to Jack in the Box. Now Jack in the Box, I have 3 levels for you for resistance and 2 for support. Now Jack in the Box is at the lows in the chart, right? So if you put a gun to my head and made me bet, is this going to go up or down into earnings? I think it's going to go up. But if the earnings are really bad, it doesn't matter if the stock may favors a move to the upside. That's why we're not going long into the stock. However, for resistance, the first level, a more aggressive level, about 6% higher, around $15.25. My next level, this basically double top, these 2 pivots up here, around $15.82, expecting some resistance around there. And then finally, there's a gap fill around $17, all the way back from earlier this month. That would be about an 18% higher. So huge move higher, right? To the downside, because we're at the lows, guys, and take a look at this. Jack in the Box is trading at levels. Let me scroll. I got to scroll all the way back here, guys. All the way back from levels that we haven't seen since 2008. My 2 levels of support come from these pivots down here. I know it might be hard to see, but that's just how far away they are. My first level of support is around the $13 level, basically $12.95. And then again at $12.36. If you're at home trading along with me, just know that in order to trade, you're going to have to switch to extended trading hours, okay? Extended trading hours to be able to trade with me. So what I'm gonna do now is put these on the screen and we'll react to them in real time as they come out with Jack in the Box here. And let me set up Palo Alto Networks really quickly. We have about 2 minutes until the stock comes out. For those of you who have never traded earnings before, let me go ahead and move these to the side here so I can get out of the way. For those of you who have never traded earnings before, the price action, these wicks look really small, right? They look fairly small. You might be like, okay, I'm not going to be able to see price as it moves. But just know when earnings comes out, I'm expecting a big move like this or a big move like this. And the moves happen extremely quickly. Again, guys, make sure to set your brokerage to extended trading hours so that any trades that you put out, any orders that you put out will get filled in this extended trading hours. We have about 1.5 minutes and then the action will begin. And then Nvidia happens at around 4:20. Again, guys, my levels for Jack in the Box, $15.25, my first shortable level. That's an aggressive level. That $15.82 level, I believe that's a gap fill. That is a level I'd like a little more, right? But if you just want to get in the game, $15.25. And then finally, that $17 level would be a big move up for Jack in the Box, about 18% up. For support, $12.95 and then $12.36. Palo Alto Networks, we're looking at $215 for resistance, and again at $223.65. For support, $187.25, and again at $176. About 30 cents left, guys. I'm gonna drink some water so I'm ready to cover this as it goes on.
Hey, awesome stuff there, Lawton. Hey, just a quick question. Do you recommend that anybody interested in trading, they preload any of these orders? Or
yeah, all these should be preloaded. I have about 10 seconds left, Drew. Thank you for hopping on. Make sure to put these level in ahead of time if you want to trade along. So we have about 15 seconds, guys. Let's see how these earnings go. They should be coming out any minute now. Okay, Jack in the Box seems to have come out down a little bit, down about 4%. Not yet hitting our levels, right? Palo Alto Networks, not quite any movement yet either. Earnings should have come out about 15 seconds ago, but only up 0.5%, not a lot of movement here. Back to Jack in the Box, doesn't look like there's that much volume. If I turn on my volume right here, we can see that only 8,000 shares have been traded. So that makes me think that earnings have not come out yet for Jack in the Box. As far as Palo Alto Networks, you can see over here about 0.5% up. No moves yet in this stock. I'm checking now, only about 9,000 shares traded. To kind of compare to the regular trading hours, we had 15,000 shares traded at around 349, right? So you're expecting a huge influx. Okay, and here we go, guys, on Jack in the Box, coming down decently. Remember, that first level of support on Jack in the Box is going to be around this $13 level, around $12.95. Looks like Jack in the Box is down about 8.5%. Palo Alto Networks, nothing yet. And this is why I said, guys, even though if you had to make me guess, where is Jack in the Box going to go into earnings, I would say it favors a move up because it's so low on the charts, but it didn't matter because ultimately they had bad earnings. Remember, $12.95 is that level, guys. We're getting really close for those of you at home, about 4 cents away on that level. Back to Palo Alto Networks, not much happening. The stock is up about 1%. Let's see if Palo Alto or Jack in the Box is able to come down, hit that level, and potentially see a bounce. As for a target, guys, everyone always asks me, okay, it hits the level, then what should I be looking at a target? It's kind of difficult to give you an exact target. For me, generally looking for a bounce about 1% or so. Jack in the Box just teetering on that $13 level, and that's a huge level psychologically, right? We as humans love these kind of whole round numbers, nice numbers around $13. And let's see if we can break that, get a potential fill. And there's a nice bounce here, a nice pop here on Jack in the Box, about a 3% bounce. So you see how quickly Jack in the Box can move, right? Some of these earnings can move. And Palo Alto Networks really not doing anything, kind of a dud. I kind of wished or hoped for a little bit more, was a little conservative on those levels, but there was no trade there. We're going to give Jack in the Box a couple more minutes and see if anything happens, if we're able to get that down to that level before getting another bounce. But a great bounce so far on Jack in the Box. Again, my first level was $12.95. We got so close, about 4 cents away. But this is kind of a warm-up, guys, because at $4.20, that's when the big earnings happens. And one more thing about trading earnings, guys, is if you get into a trade into earnings, make sure that you exit before you hop off. But make sure you cancel all of your orders, because the last thing you want is to get filled in the after hours and wake up the next morning and you're down 8, 10, 20% on a specific trade. And this is a great bounce here on Jack in the Box. Again, up 40 cents, about 3%, excuse me. Palo Alto Networks still not doing anything. Give it another minute or so, and if nothing happens, I'll throw it back to Drew to cover a little bit more of the markets before we come back for Nvidia earnings. But so close here on Jack in the Box, and unfortunately, Palo Alto Networks, kind of a dud. And as you can see, guys, as time goes on, earnings came out here. And we had the huge drop, right? Huge amount of price action, influx of volume. But then slowly over the course of the next few minutes, we saw volume start to wane off. And for that reason, I'm no longer interested in Jack in the Box. I'm actually taking my order off of the table. I'm done with Jack in the Box. I'm not interested. Even if it comes down to $12.95, the likelihood that you're going to have that bounce has decreased because we already saw a wonderful, great 3% bounce on the stock, really close to that level. So for that reason, I'm removing my orders from Jack. And Palo Alto Networks, not doing much. Maybe I'll have an update for you when we come back for Nvidia. But with that being said, let me throw it to Drew as he covers a little bit on the markets, and I'll be back soon.
Awesome. Great stuff there, Lawton. And no better day to start off with the Earnings Central Live than with NVIDIA earnings. So really cool stuff there, Lawton. All right, guys. So into the regular market and summary recap. We've got big news coming out tomorrow morning. We've got PPI data. We've got the FOMC meeting minutes. And then also we've got the unemployment data, but that's going to be for September. October's data is not going to be released. And so we're going to have to go without that, but at least we're getting data back. Us traders love that. So let's look into the market summary board, see where everything panned out today. All right. Market summary board. All right, let me remove. There we go. There it is. All right. Sorry about that for a minute. As you see here, we got the Dow Jones up 0.18%, NASDAQ up 0.73%, S&P 500 up 0.54%. U.S. oil getting smacked down 2% on the day, still trading in the range that we've been discussing recently. Gold up 0.1%, basically flat on the day. Bitcoin remains under pressure, folks. Under $90,000 for the day. And it's really been trading around there for quite a long time throughout the day too. All right, so into the S&P 500 heat map we go. We see here Nvidia rocketing up into earnings. Can they hold that after hours? We're going to find out here in just about 9 minutes. But we also had other big players pushing up. We had Google pushing up 3%, AVGO up 4.09%, Oracle up 2.29%. But then we also had some big heavy hitters taking a pause and pulling back in the markets. Microsoft down 1.35%, Meta down 1.23%, Netflix down 3.58%. We're going to look at both Netflix and Google here in just a few minutes. Plus, we've got some other charts we're going to take a look at as some of the viewers, you have submitted requests. And thank you guys so much for doing that because we would love to check that out. All right, great. So next up, we've got the S&P 500. And in this, we're looking at the SPX. And you can see here, yesterday we did receive a great bounce off this longer term inclining parallel channel. Price action fell straight down into it today. We actually were looking like we were going to have a solid bounce. But then throughout the middle part of the day, that momentum faltered and price started pulling back down on the charts, as you see here, finishing very much in line with yesterday's candle. So that doesn't really give us much insight as to if this bounce can be prolonged and we can have this take place over the next several days or if not. But remember what I said at the beginning of the show. We've got a lot of data that's going to be released tomorrow morning. Plus, we've got Nvidia. Nvidia makes up over 7% of the S&P 500. Nvidia's earnings are definitely going to sway which direction the markets go. If we start breaking down, be watching the top end of this parallel channel, currently at 6,580 points on the chart. Next up, we've got the Qs. Now, the Qs here, as you see, I've got a long-term trend line for those viewers that have seen this before. This extends back out to March of 2022. You can see when I string that out through a pivot point here from the week of December 16th of 2024, that really defines what's going on with price action over the last several weeks. You can see here at the beginning of August, we were butting up against this trend line, then we broke through, and then since breaking up and pushing higher, we find ourselves right back here on this trend line. So back to the daily, if we do have bad report on Nvidia, you can better believe we're likely coming underneath this inclining trend line and likely going to test the 581.64 level. One thing to also keep in mind, this big red candle on Friday, October 10th, the bottom end of that likely will be a speed bump on the way down. That level is $589.05. Next up, we got the SMH. The SMH today made a valiant push and did retain and hold its gains a little bit better than both the Qs and the S&P 500. As you see here, we did kiss the middle area of this inclining parallel channel and then retreated since then. But still, nonetheless, great bounce up on the SMH, kind of to be expected with this long decline that we've had here on this chart. If we do see more selling pressure in Nvidia, you can believe that this level likely will get tested down here at $325.36. A good beat on Nvidia could push us back in the top 50% area of this inclining parallel channel. All right, guys, we're getting close to 4:15. So before I go on to the rest of the charts and the rest of the show, let me kick it back over to Lawton so that you can give us some insight as to what you're expecting with Nvidia.
Sure. Thank you so much, Drew. And let's hop back to me, guys. So I just want to cover this really quick, guys. Palo Alto Networks, right after I stopped off, it popped up. What a great and beautiful move all the way up here to about $212.50. didn't quite hit that resistance level of $215, but you see it's coming down into this potential support level. And I'm just checking the volume on this right now. There's still a decent amount of volume. So if you did want to play that 187.25 level for support on Palo Alto Networks, I wouldn't blame you. But all eyes right now are on Nvidia. Can we throw up that graphic that we have for the expectations of Nvidia? Thank you so much. So for the forecast on Nvidia, we're expecting a revenue about, this is crazy, $54.6 billion, up 52% year over year. The largest company in the world just gets bigger. Let's go back to me, please. So we know today that Trump had been propping up Nvidia, talking about how, you know, he's best friends with Jensen Huang and the AI Blackwell chip, and it's in production, it's made for America. But what do the charts say? That's the only thing I'm interested in. And going into this, I have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful head and shoulders pattern here on Nvidia, right? But just because I have a head and shoulders pattern and just because the stock is bearish or bullish into earnings doesn't mean it has to go there. We have about a couple minutes left, guys. A couple minutes before these earnings come out. So I'm going to give you my levels of support and resistance. My first level of resistance on Nvidia is around this $199 level. There's a beautiful gap fill up here, and that would be about 7% higher. You can always add around that $200 level, a beautiful psychological level like I talked about earlier with Jack in the Box and the $13 level. My secondary level of resistance on Nvidia is double top. Do I expect, even if Nvidia has great earnings, I would be shocked if it moved up 14%, right? You're talking about a 4.5, this number is crazy, $4.5 trillion company, right? Do you think it can go up another 14% off of earnings? Well, never say never. Going into earnings though, my levels of support, clear levels of support. First off, this nice pivot low down here, around 5.6% lower, around $176.50. Secondary level, I talked a lot about these psychological level, guys. A psychological level around $170. Not only is it a nice whole round number, right? It is a gap fill. So let's go into the charts and see what's going on. We have a couple of minutes left, basically 2 more minutes until Nvidia releases earnings. But back to Palo Alto Networks, you see it continuing to go down. So again, guys, I'm anticipating support on this around 187.25. I'm personally focused right now on Nvidia earnings, but there's still great volume. You're getting over 20 to 30,000 shares being traded in each of these minutes, right? So I would say for Palo Alto Networks, until it gets to around 15 to 10,000 shares being traded per candle, you should be fine to trade it. But just know it already had that pop, so the likelihood of a bounce is less, right? That's certainly a level I'll be targeting tomorrow, especially this 176 level tomorrow for potentially a day trade. So now we have about a minute and 30 seconds left to go. And just one thing to note, guys, as I go, let me have the full screen, please. Okay, I will be also going live tomorrow. We have a couple stocks. We have Intuit, we have Ross, and a couple more. I'm going to be live tomorrow from 3:55 to around 4:15 to trade earnings tomorrow as well. But anything that I believe I can get a good trade on or have decent levels on, I will be live for on the Earnings Central Live. We have about 50 seconds, guys, 40 seconds, guys. The entire stock market is watching this. This is the largest company. Could this be the final straw? Could this mark the start of a pullback in the general markets? We have to see what Nvidia earnings are going to be. We know they're going to have good earnings. We know that they're going to be profitable. They're estimating to beat year over year over 50%, right? That's insane. So we're expecting good earnings. But the question is, are the earnings good enough to justify this being a $4.5 trillion company? Let's take a look. 10 seconds, guys. Remember, support levels up here, 199, and then that double top around 212, and support around 176. So Nvidia perking up a little bit, currently up 1.4%. Let me go full screen on this. Let's see. And one thing to note about earnings, guys, the first move, right? The first move is sometimes the wrong move. We saw Palo Alto Networks do this. We saw it pop off of earnings and then begin the sell-off. And right now, we're having a decent move up in Nvidia, not too much, about 2.3%. But you have to remember, this is the most expensive company in the world. My first level of support or resistance, guys, remember, is around 199. Let's see if it can get there. It's pushing up now. 191. Need a little more, about $8 more. But we've seen these things go crazy. We've seen big moves like this and then huge sell-offs. Turning back to Palo Alto Networks, it looks like it did hit that level, but it's just sitting around there. So there's not much going on there on Palo Alto Networks. And just know that, you know, if Nvidia has great earnings to continue to push higher, we're going to see the entire S&P go up, right? We're going to see everything open up tomorrow. We're going to see AMD, specifically any of these other semiconductors or tech sectors, continue to push higher. All right, guys, we're about $4 away on the first level of resistance on Nvidia. So far, a really good move, up 4.3%, but I want more in order to be able to short this. Looking for about $4 more, guys. $4 more. If you are trading this at home, a couple things to note. Make sure you're in extended trading hours and make sure you go small. Earnings are extremely volatile and are often unpredictable. That's why I'm just playing the probabilities of where it's likely to pull back. So we see price starting to stall out here on Nvidia. If it doesn't get up to that level in the next couple of minutes, I'm likely to cancel my order. And I explained this earlier. As time continues, as you get further and further away from the earnings release, the volume is likely to drop off until potentially an earnings call and more news coming in. But it's really key to get in a trade in earnings, if there is one to take, right? Sometimes not taking a trade is better than forcing a trade. To get in within the first 5 to 6 minutes, right? Really, that is the key time to get into a trade as soon as earnings release in order to potentially make some money on the trade. So we'll give it, Nvidia, a couple minutes or a couple more minutes, maybe 2 more minutes. And if it starts to pull back, right? If it doesn't get up to the level, it's fine, right? It's better to have a level, it not hit, and wish you could have traded than to get in the trade and wish that you didn't take the trade, right? Or that you realized that you'd taken it too early. So it looks like Nvidia is potentially starting to pull back here. Did go up almost 5%, right? And let's take a look at this drop. Good fall here on Nvidia, about 2%, right? That's generally what I would be looking for. So it looks like for now, at least for now, this trade is likely off the table unless Nvidia goes up there within the next basically minute and a half, right? So just a really nice sell. Let's go back to Palo Alto Networks. And we saw Palo Alto Networks hit that level. And how much of a bounce did you get? About a 0.9%. So you could have taken 0.9% on Palo Alto Network. But again, guys, you just take a look. The volume on this thing starting to die down. Actually, not the worst. Still around 10 to 15,000, but just not a lot of price action here on PANW, which is why I took my order off the table. But here on Nvidia, starting to come back. It'll be interesting to see where this is tomorrow, right? And in the overnight. So does it open up higher tomorrow? Does it open up flat tomorrow? Because we've seen stocks go up into earnings, off of earnings, then pull back, and the next day I wake up, I check my phone, get ready for the live day trading room, and then, oh, stock's down. I thought I had good earnings. But yeah, so it looks like we have missed this trade, unfortunately, but it's all good, guys. This is a really nice sell-off into Nvidia, and this was the first episode. Just know I'm going to be back tomorrow to trade a couple different stocks like Intuit, Ross, and a couple of more that we'll keep you updated on. With that being said, let me throw it to Drew so he can finish up trading the close. Thank you so much for your time, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this.
Awesome. Thank you, Lawton. Great stuff. I love those levels on PANW, how it kissed the top and then tagged the bottom. Really interesting stuff on earnings. Sometimes, folks, that can happen where you can play the top and then play the bottom, all within the same earning period time frame within about 10 to 20 minutes. It's really remarkable if you do have the right support levels, and Lawton's going to help you find those on these coming shows. Great stuff, Lawton.
It's true.
All right, guys. So let's flip back over to my charts. All right, here we go. Awesome. Got them here. We got the IWM. We left off with the SMH. And the IWM, as you see here, actually had a decent day. It actually pushed up just ever so slightly, even though it was just flat on the day. Look at this big pop where price got up to. It had a nice push. But then again, guys, the data coming out tomorrow and Nvidia reporting earnings after hours. Even though this is a small cap index, guys, Nvidia controls and pushes the momentum in the market. Plus, we now have data coming out. A lot of investors, even though they were pumping into the stocks early this morning, began realizing maybe it might be a smart idea to start taking profits in case we do have a big sell-off in the coming days. So you can see that's exactly what happened in IWM. We poked up higher, sold right back down. All in all, a sideways day, still trying to maintain support there at $233.64. Next up, we've got Bitcoin. Now, the story of the day is here on Bitcoin, folks, in my opinion. You can see here yesterday, we put in a beautiful daily bottoming tail here with the low of $89,183. Today, we were actually trading underneath that area. But what do we know about bottoming tails? They're still intact as long as price action closes within the previous candle or above it. So as long as we don't have a close underneath $89,183, this bottoming tail tells us price is likely going to be going up in the near to midterm on Bitcoin. We'll see if this holds. But guys, as I remind you, last time we actually came into this 50% area on Bitcoin on this parallel channel, you can see we created very similar tails. Then price action gyrated all around this area for literally a couple months before bouncing up and deciding to go higher on the charts. We could be facing something similar. This one single bottoming tail is not going to be enough for me to start loading the boat up on Bitcoin. I want to start seeing a better push up higher and some consolidation, not retesting these lows. So still Bitcoin is hanging on a cliff. If we do start falling any further on Bitcoin, next levels of support will be right here on the top end of this consolidation, right around 85,000. But since that's so close, that level can be pierced and plunge through too. Just to remind you on this parallel channel, look at the bottom of this, folks. Not saying we're going there today, tomorrow, or even next week, but at least on the charts, it's telling me we could go down as low as $60,000 on Bitcoin. Got to keep that in mind if you're investing in Bitcoin. Next up, we've got gold. Gold, as you see here today, really just moved sideways, tried to get back above this inclining trend line, failed in doing so. The last 3 days from this price action moving down, starting to put in a little bit of bearish consolidation. We'll see how this pans out in the coming days. If this trend line does still remain resistance and hold price down, if so, next support, $3,918, followed by the top end of this parallel channel, right around $3,700. Next up, we've got silver. Now, silver, we defined this trend line just the other day, this inclining trend line. Silver is staying stronger than gold, although it is starting to mimic this downward move and bearish consolidation. It's much higher up on the chart than gold is. So as I've said, it's got relative strength. So if you're a bull in silver, this immediate trend line is really what you should be watching like a hawk. Right here, we've got a level of support at $49.38. Followed by $46.79, and then $44.26. Those are the main three areas you need to be watching to see where price and how it reacts once it gets into those levels. Next up, U.S. oil. Guys, we've been talking about this for a few days, this massive candle that we've seen here on Wednesday, November 12th. And there's a reason, guys. I've saw some comments. And guys, I do love the comments. They help us out, make a better show. So thank you for them. But the reason I talk about big red candles is because you guys need to pay attention to them. Whenever you hear me repeating something over and over again, there's probably a good reason I'm doing that, such as when price comes back to a trend line after it breaks it, or big red or big green candles. The reason is because those candles control price on the chart, particularly for the near term. And that's exactly still what U.S. oil is doing. You see that big downward move. Price tried to get up, jockey above it, failed. Price gets rejected, comes back in. Still trading all within the price action that occurred there on November 12th. Still not much has changed. This consolidation area at this point, it's really actually kind of flipping back and forth between bullish and bearish. Near term, more bearish because of this big red candle. Next up, we've got Nat Gas. Now, Nat Gas had a great move today, up 4%, piercing this resistance level at $4.70. I thought we were at least going to have more consolidation through here, maybe even just move up a little bit because, guys, this is an incredible push on Nat Gas. Now, Nat Gas is known as a widowmaker. And it's known for that because it does move very quickly and can put people out of the money on their trades very fast. So just be careful with that, knowing that Nat Gas can be extended and stay extended for long periods of time. Although I still consider this area the likely place that Nat Gas is going to keep price, remain right here playing pinball in between 470 and this support zone, $4.33 to $4.45. Now, if we push up higher, the next resistance area is at $4.92, which is the March 2025 high pivot. Next up, let's do some education. Now, guys, we did talk about Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin was the biggest story of the day as far as really testing, breaking down, potentially getting saved right there at that 50% area of the parallel. But we see MSTR has been the recipient of massive selling, guys. Look at this decline that's occurred since July. We've got a drop now in MSTR of 58%. Now, yes, we've had decent bounces along the way, but guys, this is pretty nasty. And if Bitcoin continues to sell, you can believe this level of 162.63 is going to get tested in the near term. And I want to also bring to your attention some trend lines that I've noticed and how you can find these yourself. And what I did is I took and isolated a pivot point in May 28th of this year. So I've got this one pivot. So what do I do with this? What do I do with this when I'm just trying to find a potential resistance spot? Like you see up there on the screen at 246.75, should Bitcoin start bouncing, MSTR is likely going to go up that area. So why there, Drew? Well, if you draw this trend line across and connect it over to this pivot low from Thursday, September 25th, you notice that price actually intersects right there on this trend line with this resistance area. Plus, this resistance level at $246.75 is a Fibonacci retracement level. Whenever I have trend lines coming into a Fib retrace level, that tells me should price get up there, especially rapidly, that will be a major area of contention. Plus, another part about the beauty of trend lines. Notice here when I connected just these two pivots, how it shows you when price bounced off that area, it came right back down to this trend line, bounced, then came back down to the trend line again, bounced again before plunging. And then what did it do? It came back and tagged the trend line that it just broke. Think of this like a bouncy ball, like it came down, bounced, broke through, then got attracted right back to the line before getting rejected further. That's the nature. That's the movement that happens in the stock markets all of the time. You just got to find the trend lines, and the trend lines help us on the left side of price, and they help us in the future potential area where price is about to go at $246.75. That's if we get a nice bounce. Next up, we've got Netflix. Now, Netflix, one of the big mega caps that did receive some exodus pressure today, down 3.58%, all still kind of hanging out right here in this chop area from the end of October until current days. Now, if I'll remind you folks that I have shown this chart to before, got another long-term trend line because, guys, long-term trend lines work, and then they work over and over again. Similar how I showed you on MSTR, but that was a shorter-term trend line. This one here, as you can see, back from November of 2021, connected over to the pivot here in February of 2025. You can see once price broke out, we came back down, retested that trend line here in October 2nd. There was really no other reason for a bounce right here. We already plunged through gap fill, and then next thing you know, we bounced right back up. And then what did? We gapped underneath this, then retested where price broke, and then now we find ourselves right back here. So basically, we've got a down move and sideways consolidation. In the near term, that's telling me bearish consolidation. Likelihood price should come down to the next support on Netflix, down to $101.98. And if you haven't seen this chart in a few months, yes, they did a stock split. The stock price before was over $1,000. Now their stock price, as you see clearly here, is at $110. No, there wasn't a collapse, just simply a stock split. Next up, we've got Google. As you see here with Google, we have had a beautiful move today. Just the other day, though, we put in a massive topping tail. All right. So Google released news that they did have Gemini 3 being released, and they also have some developments in Asia, building out some new AI developments for potential new ventures over there in Asia. Basically, new capital flow, new products. Investors were excited, but you know what? This topping tail is still intact, folks. We had a lot of buying pressure, pushing price over $300, but then also this inclining parallel channel and the topping tail held price, pulled it right back down amongst this consolidation. So while the day today for Google was good, but investors aren't hanging around long enough. Looking like tech is just getting weaker and weaker. This sort of news would likely have propelled the stock and held it above $300 for the day. Could be the Nvidia earnings, could be the data tomorrow, but investors were eager to go ahead and take profits while they could in case Google started collapsing after hours. And so far that hasn't happened. Post-market, we're moving up nicely. Now, last two, we've got a couple viewer requests. We've got OKLO. And as you see here, OKLO has had an incredible move on the charts. Now, this is a power play. And so this was all tied in with those big AI data center build outs. So what do we have here? We've got a couple things. We've got a long-term trend line coming back from 2024. And yes, folks, these long-term trend lines are like magical lines on charts. They work over and over again, strung out through this pivot. You notice here from February of 2025, when price came right back up into that trend line, price got rejected. Then when it finally broke through, we went all the way up, came back down, bounced right on that trend line, right back up. And now since we're jockeying right around this area. So not only is this trend line a level of support, but then we also have the bottom end of this parallel that is support for OKLO. So the good news for OKLO is that it's held this area. It's held the parallel. The bad news, we're at the lower range of this. Now, post-market, we're starting to peak up, which is good, which then could propel the stock to attack the next resistance right here at the 50% area, the parallel at $133.18. A very big move. Now, there will be stopping points along the way, but that will be the major area of resistance. To the downside, if this parallel breaks, keep in mind when trend lines break, price likes to go back and retest that trend line. The first two areas in which price could do that is right here, $80.75 or $66.20. But then I also have another level way down here, $37.09. Now that level is there because of this, folks. Look at this. We've got a head and shoulders pattern on this chart of OKLO. Now that does have a measured move that pulls price all the way down here to 37.09. The way that that doesn't happen is if price gets rejected off of this neckline. If price does come up here and beat this neckline, then that measured move is negated. But right now in the charts in OKLO, this is kind of a no-touch situation for me simply because we have this measured move target down here at 37.09. Yes, we've gotten a great bounce from this area of support. That area will be significant right here once it gets tested at $123.75. It's a dynamic trend line, so that can change in value. So make sure you draw that there on your chart. If you are in OKLO, that's definitely going to guide you to help you understand that if this measured move is over with, boom, bulls can take over and price can move higher. Or if we're going to end up getting rejected there and price coming back down here, you got to be conscious about this number down here at $37 potentially getting tagged. That's a severe decline from $106. So definitely caution is warranted on this stock. Next up, we got FFIV, F5. All right, so first things first, when I see a stock chart like this and I see a move from $344 that occurred at the beginning of October down here to $223, in just 1 month, guys, that is severely oversold in the near term, clearly on display down here at the bottom of the chart, registering an 18.3 on the relative strength indicator. So what that tells us is that, yes, this stock is actually due to bounce at any given moment, but just being oversold isn't good enough reason for a bounce on its own. You can see I've got all this consolidation right here in this area. The very top ends of that consolidation has actually tagged price. I'll zoom in a little bit further so you can see that. This area is $223.99. This could be the end of this catastrophic fall, and we could generate a bounce right back up to this 240 range. However, if price continues to accelerate down, this longer term trend line becomes far more attractive, because you notice we've only tagged it twice. Hitting it a third time generally provides the biggest bounces afterwards, okay? And especially if we have a sharp move into it. Just look back on this chart. Look back here and notice this big, huge move straight down. Look at the bounce that occurred from that. So whenever I have a big move like this, yes, it is somewhat scary, but then it also screams opportunity to me, because these sort of moves eventually end up with fantastic bounces, one that could be pushed all the way up to $253.30. So if you want to do a shotgun method, first nibble a little bit here, get some at $223.99. Then if price comes down and tags this inclining trend line, pick up a little bit more of FFIV, and then see if this trend line can hold, provide that incredible technical bounce where price can push all the way back up there to $253.50. Really neat stuff, guys. Awesome big show for you guys today. I hope you guys had a fantastic time enjoying it. We're gonna have more earnings traders coming out for you in the near future. That's the Earnings Central Live, hosted by Lawton Ho. He will have his own show. Our show's still going to stay at 4:20 in the afternoon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, send this out to your friends and family so they too can start learning about technical analysis. All right, folks, we'll see you back here tomorrow at 4:20. Until then, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the charts.